Okay, well, let's begin. Bienvenidos a todos. Gracias por atender a esta invitación que amablemente nos hicieron desde UPAEP. Hemos colaborado un poquitín con ellos en todo el tema del Congreso de Marketing que tuvieron la semana pasada y pues un congreso sumamente singular porque el doctor Naresh Malhotra, que es la leyenda del marketing, es realmente el autor de este congreso, el que lo trae. Y antes de iniciar, comentaba con el doctor Felipe Burgos, que es el decano de la Escuela de Negocios de UPAE, pues que pocas veces se ven eventos así en México, y más como el doctor Naresh Malhotra. El doctor Malhotra es de los más citados en el mundo, está dentro del 2% de las personas más citadas en el mundo, y seguro todos los que estamos aquí que conocemos de marketing estudiamos con él Marketing Research, ¿no? Investigación de mercados, que es el libro yo creo que más conocido aquí en México. Entonces es para nosotros un honor tenerlo aquí. Dr. Malhotra, thank you very much for joining us to accept to dictate this conference. It's for us an honor to meet you and to hear you with this interesting and trending topic, because today it's very, very important to have all the business in the marketing strategy. The marketing strategy is today one of the most important things if you want to go on with the COVID issues. And doing good, it's a topic that is interesting for all of us in all the areas. Finance, strategy, and now marketing doing good is really, really important. So thank you very much. We are very pleased. And I am going to let the microphone to Dr. Felipe Burgos in order to start this conference.
Okay. Hello, Dr. Malhotra. Hello, all the people here that are interested in this presentation by Dr. Malhotra. I just want to add that Dr. Malhotra is very satisfied with the event that we had last week. He's obviously, you know that he is the legend of marketing worldwide, but nevertheless, he wants to provide a message where he also wants to communicate the idea that okay, he's a leader in research, but he's also very aware that we need to be maintaining close links with industry. I mean, universities and industry must have a very strong link. So I'm sure he's going to share with us a lot of experience right now. Let me just add and finish saying that he, as I said, he wants to maintain this close link with UPAEP, and he's now planning for more things to come in the years to come, but definitely trying to focus all this work to the strong link between university and industry. And I'm sure that with his experience and knowledge, all the things that we can do in the future with him, I mean, UPAEP and IESDE, obviously, will be very, very fruitful. So I'm very, very, very proud that we have him here. And thank you for everything, Dr. Malhotra.
Dean Felipe, thank you, sir. It's been a real pleasure to be here during these days. And I have been very impressed with the business school at UPAEP since my first visit in 2017. And I appreciate your vision that you have for the school and how you consider not only that the faculty are important, the students are important, but you also have a heart to develop the business community. And that's also a passion that I share, as you mentioned. So we see things eye to eye on involvement with the business community. And therefore, on this visit, we had an excellent conference last week, and mainly because Dean Felipe and Professor Mauro, who was the conference co-chair here, and his whole team, they did an excellent job in all the preparation, and a lot of extensive preparations are required. But they made it. They went beyond the call of duty, and so we had a very successful conference. We had a much larger attendance than we anticipated. And also the feedback has been very positive. And folks, this is feedback from the top professors in marketing. And I've got several emails from them saying that how pleased they were with the conference and the way the session went, and getting all these top professional. We had 2 sessions, each had 5 of the top 6, I should say, adding myself and the other sessions here also. In the 6, each session featured 6 of the top professors in their sub-discipline of marketing. And it went extremely well. And so I'm very pleased to share this session with you. And the topic of this is going to be on expanding the concept of marketing by doing good. So that said, let me share my slide with you. Professor Mauro, you have something to say, or should I go on to the presentation?
Go ahead.
Maybe you can say something in the end. So let me see if I can share my slides. I would ask the host to kindly give me permission to share my screen so you can see my
Dani,
slide.
¿puedes darle permisos al doctor Naresh para presentar pantalla, por favor?
I need to share my screen so that you can see my slides.
Yes, let me.
Screen. And I think what I have to do is share, optimize for video clip also here. And now I can share my screen and so can you see my screen? Can people see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So the title of this topic is Broadening the Scope of Marketing by marketing is a misunderstood subject. And I've been a marketing professor in the United States now more than 42 years. And I come across many people, I meet many people in my daily walk, for example, at my own church and other social instances and so on. So they asked me, what do you do for a living? And I said, well, I am a professor of marketing. And I can see, although they don't verbalize it, but I can see with the impression on their face, they are thinking, I mean, you look like a very decent guy, and people in my church, obviously I have a very good opinion about you, but I mean, of all things, why would you be in marketing? I mean, marketing is a gimmick. They think marketing is a gimmick. No, marketing is not a gimmick. A lot of people think in marketing, people are just trying to sell something to somebody's customer, whether they need that thing or not, they want to sell it to that person. No, that is not marketing. That is not how marketing was conceptualized. The marketing was conceptualized as a discipline to identify what needs consumers have in the marketplace, and then develop the entire marketing program, including the products you sell, the way you advertise them and promote them, the way you price them, the way you distribute them and make them available to meet the needs of the consumers. That is, that notion of identifying and then meeting the genuine needs of the consumers or the customers is at the very heart of the marketing concept. And marketing actually, as I will mention in the outline of the presentation, first we'll talk about the importance of marketing in the current day environment. Marketing is becoming more and more important. So we'll discuss the reasons why. There are three reasons: globalization, technology, competition. And then we'll give a definition of marketing where we take a very broad view of what a product is, that we take a very broad view of who the customer is. We talk about exchange relationships and marketing and the focus on customer needs. And then I'll give you a broad definition of marketing, and which includes doing good. And then I'll show you a video case of the National Football League, an organization, a video case that how the National Football League has broadened the concept of marketing, how they are doing good in the community, and how that has led to a very successful organization of the National Football League. And even during this time of the pandemic, well, other, like the Basketball Association has suffered, the Baseball Association has suffered, the Hockey Association suffered, but the impact on the National Football League has been minimal because they are doing good in the community and good comes back to you. So we will close with that video case, and of course, there will be opportunities for all of you to ask any questions that you may have. And I'm sure there'll be some questions, and we will leave enough time for that, and I'll take the time to address and answer all your questions. So with this outline, let us get started with the presentation. Marketing is becoming more and more important in the current day environment. And why is marketing becoming more important? There are three main reasons. One is globalization, and the other is technology, third is competition. As we acknowledge, or even though some people may not acknowledge, the world has become, not that it is going to become in the future, it already has become a global marketplace. And why is globalization taking place? Because of two main factors. One main factor is that the markets for many product categories in the developed countries, these are the first world countries, like you may talk about United States, you may talk about Western Europe, for example. These markets have become saturated. That means, what do we mean by markets becoming saturated? That means the rate of growth in these markets has become very, very slow. Either these markets are not growing, or they are growing at a marginal rate of growth. Like, what do we mean by marginal rate of growth? Like 2, 3, 4% a year. Now, imagine if you're a company like if you're a company like Coca-Cola, and your stated growth rate is your goal is to grow at 8% a year, which if you go on the Coca-Cola website, you can find that as stated, the current goal to grow at 8% globally. But your domestic market, which is your most important market, the United States, is growing only at between 2 to 3% a year. So where will that growth rate come from? How can you grow at 8 or 9% a year when your domestic market, the United States market, is growing only 2 or 3% a year? Well, clearly that growth has to come from overseas. And while the markets are saturated in the developed countries, the so-called developing countries, emerging economies, like for example, Mexico, like for example, China, like for example, India, like for example, Brazil, these markets are growing at a phenomenal rate of growth. And the reason why they are growing at a phenomenal rate of growth is because in these countries, which is very true in Mexico as well, there has emerged a very substantial middle class that both has the desire, which they always had, but now more importantly, they have the buying power, they have the money. They have the buying power to purchase foreign goods and services. And so companies are expanding overseas. And that's why penetrating new countries overseas requires substantial marketing skills, and the importance of marketing is growing. Our time may be limited, so I'm going to skip the example of Coca-Cola and P&G in China, but let me give you the example of Heinz in Mexico because it relates to your company. and also what Heinz did in Brazil. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the Heinz company. Heinz ketchup is very well known. Several of the Heinz products are now available in Mexico. And when the Heinz company was thinking of expanding in Mexico, they did a detailed marketing study of the Mexican market. The main customer would be the middle-class Mexican family. And they found out through marketing research, substantial marketing research, that these middle-class Mexican families lived in houses. And the house had a domestic servant. And a lot of the shopping for grocery products was done by the domestic servant in the household. This might be a typical scenario that the family is sitting and they are, let's say, having breakfast and they ask for ketchup, and the domestic servant will go into the kitchen and come back and say, sorry, we are out of ketchup. And then the owner or the lady of the household will say, well, here's some money. Go run down to the corner grocery store and buy some ketchup and come back. We are sitting at the table. So the servant will go and to the corner grocery store, buy the ketchup, bring the bottle and keep it on the table. And then the family can have their breakfast, whatever they have. This was the typical scenario. And so, because Mexico is a mega city, it's one of the mega cities of the world, and the traffic can be so heavy, so people generally shop within the vicinity of where they live. Now in the United States, for example, you might drive 10 miles to shop, let's say, at Walmart. People don't think anything of driving 10 miles. 10 miles is 10 minutes, because on the expressway, you're generally driving 65 miles an hour, which is, a mile a minute. But that's not the case in Mexico. People don't want to drive that far. You don't want to drive 10 miles to buy some grocery products. So Heinz concentrated their distribution in the neighborhood grocery stores. That's where Heinz concentrated their distribution in Mexico, in the neighborhood grocery stores. And because they had studied the market, they had studied the consumer behavior, this strategy was very successful in Mexico. The sales of Heinz ketchup and Heinz products took off. It took off. Very successful introduction strategy. After succeeding in Mexico, the Heinz company wanted to penetrate Brazil. Now, Brazil is arguably the largest and probably one of the more promising markets south of a border. And they said, look here, Mexico and Brazil share several common cultural characteristics. So they didn't study the Brazil market. They said, look here, why don't we take the strategy that has worked so well in Mexico and implement the same strategy in Brazil? If it's worked in Mexico, it should work in Brazil, because Brazil and Mexico have many cultural similarities. And that is what they did. They concentrated the distribution of Heinz products in smaller neighborhood grocery stores in Brazil. The result, in one word, disaster. That strategy failed in Brazil. When the strategy failed in Brazil and the sales of Heinz products didn't take off in Brazil, the company undertook research to find out why the strategy that worked so well in Mexico failed in Brazil, when they share many cultural similarities. And when they did marketing research in Brazil, they found out that, yes, it is true that Brazil and Mexico have cultural similarities, but when it comes to purchasing grocery products, the consumer behavior in Brazil is very different than that in Mexico. In Brazil, especially in larger cities like Rio, like Sao Paulo, most of the grocery products is done not in the neighborhood grocery stores, but in large supermarkets. And Heinz lacked the distribution in large supermarkets because they had focused on neighborhood stores. Now, once Heinz found this out through marketing research, their strategy was that Heinz bought they bought out the largest distributor of grocery products to the supermarkets. And through that acquisition, they were able to gain access to the large supermarkets. And once they placed their products in large supermarkets, the sales took off. And they initially, although they had failed, later on they succeeded. Now, why I'm giving this example, I want to mention the fact that because globalization has become very important and companies are realizing that it is so important to penetrate new countries, new markets, if you want to continue to grow. But penetrating a new market is not simply a matter of setting up shop there. No, you have to undertake a lot of marketing and marketing research before you can enter that country. And then if you do that properly, like the Heinz company did in Mexico, they succeeded. Initially, they did not do that in Brazil, they failed. And only later on, when they undertook significant marketing research in Brazil to find out why they failed, they succeeded. So globalization is here to stay, and therefore the importance of marketing is here to stay. The second main factor that is causing marketing to become more and more important is technology. Because of technology, now, if you're a consumer, you can buy products from anywhere in the world. If you got a credit card denominated in a convertible currency, that will enable you to buy on the internet products from anywhere in the world. Likewise, marketers, when they set up a website, they can sell their products anywhere in the world. Just if you focus on just one aspect of technology, namely the internet, you see that how the internet itself has transformed marketing. And as we have seen in the pandemic, in the COVID pandemic era, a lot of consumer behavior shifted from retail shopping in the store to shopping online over the internet. And you see that here, for example, for this seminar, for example, we are thankful, we are grateful, we have 20 people registered for this seminar, 20 business people registered, but all of them are online, all of them online. We had the option of also in-person registration here on the UPAEP campus, but people opted to do online. And so consumer behavior has shifted online, and even after the pandemic, I believe that it may not continue to the pandemic level, but still a lot of people will continue to shop online because it is more convenient for them and they get a better value. And they may go out into the retail store for perhaps not so much for shopping for the products they need, but more perhaps for some pastime, more perhaps for diversion, just get away from the home for a while and so on. But you see, shopping online or selling products online is not merely a matter of setting up a website and promoting your products. No, if you want to succeed, you have to undertake significant marketing research before you ever do that. And Tiffany is a good example of that, good case study of that. Tiffany is a high-end jewelry and high-end department store. And of course, the United States is the largest market for Tiffany. It's the home market. And guess what is the second largest market for Tiffany? It's in Japan. Now, Japan became the second largest market for Tiffany even before they opened a single retail store in Japan. How? Because Tiffany studied the Japanese housewife, that was the target market. And they got through marketing research, they got a good understanding of who the Japanese housewife is. They found out these Japanese housewives were educated, middle class. They were very technology savvy, and they did a lot of their shopping on the internet using the cell phone, and that they when preference for products was concerned, they preferred Japanese products to foreign products where the quality of the product was a factor. They believed that the foreign products were not as good as Japanese products in terms of quality. So if they wanted to buy a product where the performance would depend on the quality of the product, they would have a strong preference for Japanese product. But when it came to fashion products, if they're buying product for fashion, then they have a strong preference for foreign products because, Japanese products are domestic products, and if you want to look more fashionable, they thought that you have to consume foreign brands. And that's what Tiffany sends. Tiffany is a high-end department store, a jewelry store. They send jewelry and other fashion items. So armed with all of this information, Tiffany then opened a website in Japan in the Japanese language, local language. And the marketing campaign for that was launched on cell phones, not on internet by other means, but on the cell phone. And that campaign was very successful because it met the needs of the people. That's how it reflected the behavior of the people. That's how the Japanese housewife shopped. And that's how Tiffany then introduced its website and made the products available to them. So again, yes, we are making technological advances, but it's not a matter of simply putting the technology out there and hoping consumers would use it. No, it's a matter of using the technology to your advantage in understanding the consumers and in formulating a sound marketing strategy. So technology is also contributing to the importance of marketing. And the third reason why marketing is becoming important is competition. And many companies are involved in a lot of competition. Whether you see the airlines, tremendous amount of competition going on, hotels, tremendous competition going on. Almost in every product category, you see that there are 2 or 3, 4 companies, limited number of companies competing very fiercely with each other. Consider, for example, consumer products. Now, consider 2 American companies. Of course, there are also other companies like Nestle's, like Lever Brothers, which are not American companies, but I'm focusing my attention on 2 American companies, Procter & Gamble and Colgate-Palmolive. Now, Procter & Gamble is much bigger than Colgate-Palmolive, and Procter & Gamble is also very, very good marketing company. Now, Colgate-Palmolive realized that it would be very difficult for them to beat. They could defend themselves, but they could be very difficult to beat Procter & Gamble in their domestic market in the United States. So what Procter & Gamble did, they said, okay, let us penetrate foreign markets where Procter & Gamble is not active. And in many markets where Procter & Gamble was not active, Colgate introduced their products. I'm originally from India, and in India, Colgate-Palmolive is far ahead of Procter & Gamble. Just a few years ago, I was in Bogota, Colombia, and we were doing a businessman seminar. And I said that in Bogota, in Colombia, Procter & Gamble is behind Colgate-Palmolive. And one person said, I don't think that is true. I said, okay, let's prove it right now. Let's do, I'm a marketing researcher at heart. So I said, okay, let me do a short survey. There were 400 businessmen attending. This was before the COVID, so it was in-person seminar. I said, okay, let's talk about toothpaste. If you're using a Colgate toothpaste, raise your hand. And most of the hands went up. And then I said, if you're using a Procter & Gamble toothpaste, like Crest, for example, raise your hands. Very few hands went up. So I said, I proved my point. But competition is here to stay, folks. And if you want to survive the competition, leave alone thrive. Leave alone thrive in such a competitive environment. You have to engage in sound marketing. So because of these three reasons, globalization, technology, competition, the importance of marketing has been growing in these years and will continue to grow, at least in the near future, as far as we can see. Now, if you look at the traditional definition of marketing, the American Marketing Association defines marketing as marketing is the process of planning and executing the conception, pricing, promotion, and distribution of ideas, goods, and services to create exchanges that satisfy individuals and organizational objectives. So marketing has been defined. This is the traditional definition of marketing. Actually, the revised definition, they updated this definition just a few years ago. And they say it's the process of planning and executing the product, pricing, promotion, distribution. And the products could be ideas, goods, services. And it's an exchange between the consumer and the marketer so that both of them can achieve their objectives. Now, one could ask, what is a product? To broaden the scope of marketing, a product has been defined very broadly, very broadly. So what is the definition of a product? What is a product? A product is anything that can be offered to a market for consumption, acquisition, or retention. It includes goods, ideas, services, personality, places, organizations. We're all familiar with the idea of marketing of goods, like, a car is a good. And like Mexico now manufactures, assembles a lot of good brands. My colleague here was driving a Mercedes, and I asked him if this was assembled. He said, no, this particular one is imported, but Audi, he told me, has a plant, for example. A lot of Audi cars are therefore available. In many other cars, even American companies like GM and so on have plants here in Mexico. Services are being marketed, like professional services, like medical services, for example, or legal services, for example, are examples. Ideas, marketable ideas. You could market ideas like safety, for example. Preservation of the environment is a big theme right now, or elimination of COVID-19, encouraging people to engage in hygienic practices, marketing of personalities like political candidates, for example, actors, actresses, sports personalities, places. Now, there are many places in Mexico that tourists come. Cancun, for example, is a very popular tourist destination. And marketing of organizations, like marketing of a university, for example. Marketing of UPAEP would be example. So this is a definition we take in order to broaden the scope of marketing, we take a very broad view of what a product is. And people don't necessarily have to purchase the product. They can acquire it or pay attention to it, like marketing of an idea. You just have to pay attention to an idea. So we take a very, very broad view of what a product is. And because a product is central concept in marketing, that broadens the scope of marketing. Now, let me stop and just ask, I hope everybody is with me. You're able to follow me? I'm not going too fast for anybody?
Yes, we are with you. I think if you want, or if you prefer, we can open the microphones, and if someone wants to ask something, maybe to have more interaction.
Yeah, we can have that in the later on. Let me go through my presentation, because that I may not be able to complete. So let me go ahead and complete, and that may clarify as the presentation progresses. It may clarify some things for people, but we'll have a lot of time in the. I will be in no hurry. I will leave only when I've answered the very last question. So
perfect. Thanks.
I will devote whatever time is needed to address all the questions. Okay. Now the question is, who is a customer? We have answered the question of what is a product. Who is a customer? Well, these days there is the accepted notion in marketing that you have not one customer, but multiple customer groups, many customer groups. You have the ultimate consumers. These are the people who buy the product for personal consumption. And they are, of course, a very important customer group. And the main thing to note that in the current day environment, the balance of power has shifted from the marketers to the consumers. The consumers have been empowered through the internet and through social media. You see, in the old days, when consumers had a complaint, they had to dial an 800 number and call the company hotline and voice their complaint and hope it will be addressed. But these days, nobody has the patience or the time or the inclination to do that. No consumer, very, very few consumers would do that. Mostly they will get on the social media and write something, and it will go viral, and that will put pressure on the company, and they'll have to succeed. They'll have to yield to the customers. This was the case with Delta Airlines not long ago. Delta Airlines, what Delta Airlines did when the US Armed Forces, as you know, US recently withdrew, it's very recent, withdrew all the armed forces from Afghanistan. And the US government, US Army has a contract with the airlines that when the personnel come home, when these soldiers come home, they have a lot of stuff to carry, but the contract allows for only 2 bags. They can check 2 bags free, and any bag more than 2 bags, they have to pay. That's officially in the contract. And that was with Delta Airlines. So Delta Airlines brought a load of these people back from Afghanistan to the United States. And but many of these soldiers had more than 2 bags. And Delta Airlines charged them for the excess baggage. And then one of them, there was somebody came to know, they posted on social media, there was a hue and cry. The public raised a hue and cry against Delta Airlines. Delta, why are you doing this? Delta, why are you doing this? And then the other airlines come and said, we'll give 3 bags free, 4 bags free, 5. One airline said, for our armed forces coming back, they can bring unlimited number of baggage free, although the contract specified only 2 bags. And within 2 days, Delta Airlines apologized, and they said they will refund the money that they had already charged these soldiers for the excess baggage. They said, we'll refund it. And from now on, they can also bring any number of bags free. So the ultimate customers are powerful. And then you got the intermediate customers. These are like your retailers, like the channel members. And they are also very important customer group. These are the people who buy the product from the company, they add some value to it, and then either sell it to another channel member, like the wholesaler may buy the product and sell it to the retailer. And then the retailer will, of course, sell it to the ultimate consumer. Intermediate consumers, we call them. Channel members, retailers, wholesalers, agents, and so on. Now, these have to be treated as very important customer groups, not in terms of just paying lip service, but taking it to heart, taking that concept to your heart. And consider the example of Coke and Pepsi. You know, a lot of Coke and a lot of Pepsi are sold in the retail restaurants, like, for example, all the fast food restaurants, McDonald's, Burger King, and you have all of them here, Pizza Hut. All these fast food restaurants and all the other restaurants, they sell an awful lot of Coke and Pepsi by way of drinks in the restaurant. You call them, the technical name for that is fountain sales, because they are dispensed through a fountain. And Pepsi, when Pepsi realized that look here, a lot of soft drinks are sold through these fast food restaurants, what Pepsi thought, why don't we go ahead and buy fast food restaurants? Because if we buy fast food restaurants, then they will be our units. Then they will not be able to sell any Coke. They will have to sell Pepsi in the soft drinks. And so what did Pepsi do? They went out and they bought a bunch of restaurants, including, for example, Pizza Hut was bought by Pepsi. Taco Bell, another Mexican fast food chain in the United States, bought by Pepsi. KFC, very, very popular, bought by Pepsi. Now, Coke also considered the same strategy, but Coke said, no. Wait a minute. These restaurants, they are our customers. They are our customers. And as a marketing rule, you don't compete with your customers. So Coke made a strategic decision not to buy any of these fast food restaurants. Now, let me ask you this question. Which company was right, Coke or Pepsi? Which company made the right decision? Well, history has its own way of telling us who was right. History has a verdict, like the saying goes. A few years down as soon as Pepsi bought these restaurants, Coke, for example, Burger King at that time was selling Pepsi products in their stores, not Coke. Coke went to Burger King and said, hey, Burger King, now Pepsi is your competitor. Do you want to sell your competitors' products in your stores? Burger King saw the point and they switched from Pepsi to Coke. A few years down, Pepsi realized that they made a strategic mistake. Pepsi realized they made a strategic mistake, and then Pepsi sold off. Pepsi has sold off all its fast food restaurants. They sold off Pizza, they sold off Taco Bell, they sold off KFC. Because they realized they had made a strategic mistake and they were actually competing with their customers. Suppliers are a very important customer group, like automobile companies, for example. You see, for many years, now they have come up, but for many years, Ford, GM, even Chrysler, they were lagging behind German car makers and Japanese car makers. Why? Because they, about 70% of the automobile parts are not made by GM or Ford. About 70% of the parts that go into the vehicles, they buy from other suppliers, OEM suppliers. And so they buy those products from them and then assemble them in their plants. Now, they treated their suppliers more like competitors. They would not share their secrets with them. They would not share their plans with them. They would not have them upgrade their processes, so that the parts that they were buying, the parts they themselves manufacture, were of good quality. But those were only 30% of the parts. 70% of the parts they were buying from suppliers, and those were of poor quality, with the result that the GM and Ford and even Chrysler cars were not of the same quality as Japanese and German cars. And then the GM and Ford, they realized their mistakes. They started treating their suppliers as their customers, and they gave them when they were introducing advanced models, they gave them information in advance that, okay, these are the models we'll include 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road. And they helped their suppliers. They helped their suppliers to upgrade their quality manufacturing processes, upgrade the quality of their manufacturing processes, with the result that they were getting more and better quality parts from their suppliers. Your employees who work for you, they are a very important customer group. You see, it's a fallacy. By fallacy, I mean it's a mistake to think that you can have satisfied customers, ultimate consumers, when your employees are disgruntled and your employees are dissatisfied. No, it doesn't work that way. If your employees are satisfied, your customers also will be satisfied. And if your employees are disgruntled, ultimately that will flow to the ultimate consumers. Now, Microsoft is an excellent example. It is constantly rated in annual surveys that they do of the best employers in the United States. Microsoft comes in the top few. Microsoft is one of the top spots because Microsoft cares about its employees, shareholders. And nobody does this better than Warren Buffett. The shareholders at annual shareholder meetings, a lot of these Warren Buffett companies, Berkshire Hathaway, that is the name of his company, a lot of the shareholders come to the special meeting that he holds, and they've been holding the stock for years, because they are treated, as very important by Warren Buffett. The governments are very important customer groups, because government pass public policies, laws that affect your business. And folks, here is what will really broaden the concept at large. The public at large, whether or not somebody buys your product. You see, the traditional thinking in marketing was, here's the total market, these are the people who can afford my product, are likely to buy my product. So these are in my target market. I'll be concerned only about them. And these other customers, they're not likely to buy my product. They perhaps cannot afford my product because it may be more expensive, or otherwise they will not be buying it. So I'll forget about them. But now the thinking is, in this new concept, broadening the concept, whether a customer ever buys a product, they are still should be regarded as an important customer group. And you have some corporate social responsibility to raise their standard of living. And I'll show you an example of the National Football League of how they are doing this, So with the new definition, and I don't want to take all the credit for this. Of course, I have talked about this, I published about this definition, but I'm not the only one. Before me, Peter Drucker, Philip Kotler is a marketing guru, and Peter Drucker was a management guru. They also have said these same things in different ways. So I don't want to say that I'm the only one or I'm the first one to say this. No, I'm not the first one. Others, like notably Philip Kotler, Peter Drucker, have also said the same thing. Marketing is the new broadened definition. Marketing is the raising of standard of living of a society or some of its segments by doing good. You see, these people who will never, the public at large, who can never afford to buy your product or will never ever buy your product, mainly the disadvantaged segment, or the bottom of the pyramid segment, or the poor people in the society, they are still an important customer group. And we have some social responsibility to them to raise their standard of living, And that is recognized in the new definition of marketing, broadened definition of marketing. Marketing is the raising of standard of living of a society, which could be, for example, the Mexican society or some of its segments by doing good. And I'm going to show you a video of how the National Football League does it. They are working with the poor people, with kids, with small kids, children like 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 years old, with terminal diseases, cancers, and things like that, with the homeless people. Now, the homeless people will never buy a ticket and go and see a National Football League game. They will never do that. But yet, they are getting free meals during Thanksgiving time, for example. Because the league has realized, the National Football League has realized that they owe it to the society. They owe it to the society to do good and raise the standard of living of these, what we call the bottom of the pyramid consumers, the disadvantaged segments of the society, the disadvantaged people, the people who are not well off in the society. Folks, we have to do something for them. And let me share with you on a personal note as well, why this concept is dear to my heart. Because for the last 12 years, I'm doing a lot of this myself in my own life. And my wife and I, we decided that this was 12 years ago, we decided that the Lord has been good to us and that we would want to do substantial social work in many poor countries. And we are operating, so we set up a foundation to support all of this work. We're doing work in Southeast Asian countries and Africa and Latin American countries. And it's all funded by our personal funds, my wife and I. And why? Because we believe in this. We believe in this, that look here are these people who need some help, and we are in a position to help them, and we have a burden to help them. And we combine that with our Christian ministry. And it's been, I'll tell you, for these past 12 years, it has been the most satisfying thing that I do in my life. the most satisfying thing. And that also, I had to take early retirement because, you know, if you have teaching responsibilities at a university, you cannot miss a single class. And that would have prevented me from traveling internationally so much and doing all these things. So I'm still very involved in academia, very involved in academia, very involved in research, very involved in conferences. But I don't teach regular courses because I travel so much. I do short faculty courses and student courses, short ones. But my last 12 years of my life, I've been able to focus on this, ministering to the poor people. You know, we have been to some of the poorer slums and some of the largest slums in Africa, for example. And it's been a very heart-moving experience for me personally, to see these people, to talk to them, to motivate them, you know, and even to save their lives. I mean, one time I spoke to a high school. It had 903 students in one of the largest slums. It's the 5th largest slum, the Kibera slums, right outside Nairobi city in Kenya. Kibera slum, the 5th largest slum in the world, the largest slum in Africa. I spoke to a classroom of 903 students. Well, 902 students. There were 903 students. And while I was speaking to the 902 students in an assembly, my senior pastor was talking to one student. He's a Kenyan. He was talking one-on-one with one student who had determined that he would commit suicide because he saw no hope whatsoever of getting outside the slum. And so the teachers told him, look here, we have some two special people coming. They gave them the date. You hold on, give us a promise, you will not take your life until you have talked to them. And my senior pastor was able to share the gospel with the person, lead the person to Christ, work with him, take a commitment from him that he's not going to end his life. And so when you see these kind of things, you know that you are making a difference in the lives of these poor people who otherwise may not have any help. So let's see how one business organization, the National Football League, is doing good in the community. And you can go to the website, www.nfl.com. And these are all football players, the league, how is organized, you will see in the video. The main focus is not here on the American football. The main focus here is on doing good in the community. And you'll see how the National Football League is doing that. And that can also give you a model for doing good. So I'm going to show you that video. And let me see, Mauro, you can let me know if you can see the video and the sound.
Let me see.
You've watched them on the field. Tough, strong, fiercely competitive. But remove the helmets of the players in the NFL, and you'll see a softer side.
I think the NFL is committed to bettering the community.
The photo is not coming, so let me see if I can do this again. It was coming a while back. I tested it. Everything was working well.
I'm connecting the.
Yeah, let me just see here. Yeah, now you're getting the photo.
You've watched them on the field. Tough, strong, fiercely competitive. But remove the helmets of the players in the NFL, and you'll see a softer side.
I think the NFL is committed to bettering the communities and helping others because it really ties into the whole team concept.
Just get involved. That's all it is. Just get involved, whether it's time.
knowing that I get to help somebody and put a smile on somebody's face, I mean.
The NFL was founded in 1920. Through the years, it's had a rich history of giving. The National Football League is a trade organization made up of more than 30 teams. Each team has its own community relations initiatives. When you multiply that by the number of players in the league, roughly 1,600, you're just starting to get a picture of the far-reaching capabilities of this powerful organization.
I think that any good corporation in America wants to give back to its customers, and in our case, our customers are our fans who attend the games and watch TV.
The NFL has worked with a number of nonprofit and charitable organizations over the years, each team taking on a different issue, like the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, I just want to be sure that you can see the video and hear the voice. Hello?
Yes, we can see the video and the audio. It's not the best of the audios, but we can understand.
You can understand, okay.
Yes.
So let me just go ahead and continue with that.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. It will get clearer. In the beginning is not that clear, but it will become clearer as the video, you see more of the video.
You've watched them on the field. Tough, strong, fiercely competitive. But remove the helmets of the players in the NFL, and you'll see a softer side.
I think the NFL is committed to bettering the communities and helping others because it really ties into the whole team concept.
Just get involved. That's all it is. Just get involved, whether it's time, whether it's money, or whatever you can do. It all makes a difference.
Knowing that I get to help somebody and put a smile on somebody's face, I mean, that warms my heart up.
The NFL was founded in 1920. Through the years, it's had a rich history of giving. The National Football League is a trade organization made up of more than 30 teams. Each team has its own community relations initiatives. When you multiply that by the number of players in the league, roughly 1,600, you're just starting to get a picture of the far-reaching capabilities of this powerful organization.
I think that any good corporation in America wants to give back to its customers, and in our case, our customers are our fans who attend the games and watch TV.
The NFL has worked with a number of nonprofit and charitable organizations over the years, each team taking on a different issue, like the Philadelphia Eagles building community playgrounds.
It's one of my favorite days of the year for our organization. We take the day off from all the world of sports and business and stadium building, and we build a playground in a community in the Philadelphia area.
The New England Patriots help deliver Thanksgiving dinners to those in need. The Pittsburgh Steelers spread smiles to the elderly. Football players reaching out to make a difference.
We select Marshall Falk.
In 1974, the league formed a partnership with the United Way. Still in existence today, the partnership has encouraged fans to give back to their communities, and fundraising for the United Way has soared from $800 million to almost $4 billion. Today, that partnership has grown into a charitable enterprise that touches 30 million people each year, providing funds and programs to the needy. Their ongoing series of ad campaigns with the United Way reminds fans that football players are regular guys who want to do good in the communities where they work and live.
Kevin, what's it like being drafted by the clothing drive?
It's a huge thrill. I mean, honestly, I'm just excited to help the people of Tennessee.
It seems the message is getting through to fans.
The United Way, the NFL, they do tend to go hand in hand.
In addition to the many programs that the NFL players are involved with through the United Way, all of the commercials you see during football games air at no expense to them. But that's just the beginning.
Both through NFL charities and some of the other national programs that come out of New York, as well as through team organizations, team charitable foundations that almost every one of our clubs has. We give back in some way, whether it's to youth, to education, because, again, the fans have supported us, and we think it's right to support them as well.
The charity programs are right in line with the NFL's values.
The league is about integrity, tradition, and quality, and I think those words translate both to the football product you see on Sundays and also to how we act as a company. And the success of our game comes from communities that support it, so we try to do our part in giving back in the other direction.
The NFL has adopted the belief that if a corporation is going to be a good corporation, it has to be active in its community. It can't be a one-way street.
We often say that the twin pillars of the National Football League is football on the one hand and community on the other. Football is our product. Football is what we do best, but we also try to give back to the community in exchange for all the support that they have shown us.
That support is tremendous when you consider that they sell 18 million tickets a season and more than 120 million people watch their games on television each week.
I like the New York Jets.
Love the Steelers.
Dallas Cowboys.
And then there is the huge impact of the Super Bowl, an event that is the top-rated show each year, seen by more viewers than any other program. Exposure that has proven to be an effective playing field for messaging.
We ran a commercial during our Super Bowl to promote volunteerism called Join the Team. At first, just to build some awareness for it. The very next morning, we had thousands of calls go to NFL teams across the country saying, okay, I'm ready to join the team. What do you want me to do?
The NFL believes that charity and being a good corporate citizen is essential to achieve success in business. And they say it makes the entire entity stronger.
You have to give back and show your customers that you care about them. You're not established simply to sell your product to them, that you actually care about them, you care about their community.
The impact on the community reaches way beyond the games played on Sundays and Monday nights. There's a special bond that fans feel with each of the teams in the league. The organization recognizes the huge impact that can have and how that can be woven into powerful charity programs in each of those communities.
In the last few years, we've really recognized the power of the NFL message to bring about good. If Peyton Manning gives some money and gives some time, it's wonderful for those people he serves. But if Peyton Manning can give his money, give his time, and get 100 other people to do the same, that growth can just be mind-boggling.
Each Tuesday, the helmets come off and football players go out into their communities to tackle issues that are close to their hearts, be it education, youth, or medical research.
NFL means family for a lot of fans. There's an emotional connection. So we really try to be sure that the connections that fans have to our game is about more than the actual football product, and it's about the corporate entity, the community giving, and basically how good they feel about us. Because at the end of the day, the NFL is an energy, is a symbol, is this representative of American tradition. So if we don't keep fans feeling positive about us, that could whittle away.
The league's Join the Team effort puts the good works of the NFL together under one umbrella, sending out a message to fans to get in the game by getting involved in various social issues.
You inspire us to play, and together we can inspire others to reach out, to make a difference. Come on, baby, join the team.
Join the Team allows us to give the message of activity, about awareness building, and about involvement in whatever form it might take. It might be Join the Team mentor, Join the Team volunteer, Join the Team teach. The message is whatever your action is, get in there and do it.
It's not the publicity that motivates the league into action. It's really wanting to make a measurable impact on society. Remember Pat Tillman, who left the league to fight the war in Iraq? He died a hero doing what he believed was his true call to duty.
The guys realized they were given a gift by getting to play in the National Football League, and they're doing a lot better than a lot of folks. And they believe that as part of the commitment to being a player in the National Football League, you give back. And that comes from the top. It comes from Gene Upshaw, the head of our Players Association. It comes from our Commissioner Tagliabue and all the owners. They believe that, again, part of the tradition of the National Football League is community service.
A service that the players in the NFL want to be a part of.
There is this love affair, fortunately, between the public and the National Football League that the NFL and the teams have to give back to those fans who supported so well. And that's what we do through our various programs, whether it's NFL Charities, our Youth Football Fund, our Disaster Relief Fund, which we established after 9/11 to give back to the families of those public servants who were killed in New York and in Washington. We believe that we can only do X amount, but we work pretty hard to make that X a capital X, not a small x.
And there is charity on the field, too. Each time you see a player being fined, that money is donated to help fund various causes. Fans can get in the game, too, by going to NFLauction.com. All of the proceeds go directly to players' charities.
I think the NFL stands for quality. I think it stands for tradition. I definitely think it stands for integrity. And I think a lot of those words come together to stand for what I guess you'd say is Americana. I think there is nothing that captures the American energy more than the National Football League.
An energy that continues to ignite goodwill with each passing season. For the Pearson Video Library, I'm Pat Laurie.
Okay, folks, I'm going to stop sharing the screen right now so that we can have time for questions. I hope you enjoyed the video. In the beginning, it's not that clear. Perhaps the photo and the voice, but it becomes, as the video progresses, it becomes very clear. And the heart, you see, consumers these days are very discerning, very, very discerning. They know when you're paying them lip service, and they know when it is coming from your heart. So it has to come from your heart. And the reason why NFL, even during the pandemic, has done so well when other sports leagues have not done that well at all, is because they have the support of the fans. They know they do community service as something from their heart, and not for the sake of getting publicity or sake of selling more tickets, but they do it because they believe it's their duty and they owe it to these people in the community, especially the underprivileged in the community, the underserved segments of the society, the poor people, the disadvantaged people, like the small children you saw who had different forms of cancer, and they are ministering to them, and so on and so forth. So folks, this is a challenge I want to pose to all the business community, that please think about doing good in your own community. You don't have to travel very far. You know, there are needs all around you. If you look at in your own community where you're based, in your own community where you're serving, you will see a lot of needs there that you can help meet. And you saw the dual concept here. They volunteer their time, and then they volunteer they donate their money. Just donating money is not enough. Yes, you can donate the money, which is a good cause, but also volunteer your time. That is what will get you involved in the community. And I personally travel a lot, and where we go, we try to combine our mission work. Some places I go purely for mission work, some other places, like here in Upayat, we combine university visits with substantial, significant social work. So that's, I want to present that as a challenge, as an opportunity to all of you who are the business community. Think beyond your immediate customers, ultimate who are buying your product. Yes, they are an important customer group, but there are other customer groups like we have talked about today. And then the public at large, you know, even though the segments, there are some segments of the society, the downtrodden ones, the lower segments of the society, the poorer segments of the society, the underprivileged ones, the disadvantaged ones, who perhaps will never ever buy your product. But that doesn't mean you can ignore them. You also should regard them as an important customer group and try to serve them by meeting their needs. So with that, I want to end my talk and turn over for question and answers. You know, question, answers, comments are all welcome. And even if you have a question, kindly raise it. We'll be happy to answer it. If you have a comment you want to make, that will perhaps maybe some of you are already doing some of these things. Please share it, because that will encourage other business people who are watching to do the same. So please share if you're doing something along those lines. I personally want to hear it, and I know other people would be also encouraged to hear that. And we have all the time. Like I said, I'll be here until the last question has been answered, the last comment has been heard, and we have all the time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Malhotra. It was a very interesting conference since the beginning of the marketing strategy to ending in this marketing for good or share value. It's really important to us as a community, as a society. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mauro, because you are the responsible of Dr. Naresh in Mexico. Thank you for all the facilities that you gave us to have Dr. Malhotra at IESDE. So thank you for all the effort. Thank you, Dr. Felipe Burgos. And thank you for all the equipment in UPAEP and of course in IESDE that make possible this conference. So we are going to open the microphones. If somebody wants to make any question, please raise your hand.
All questions are welcome, and please, you can ask questions. If you have a comment, please, comments also welcome. Like I said, if you're doing something along these lines, please share with us what you're doing so that it can be an encouragement to other people also.
Okay, Richard, please.
Well, good evening, especially to you, Dr. Malhotra. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and those interesting cases. Yeah, it came to my mind when we talk about marketing, we always talk about creating value. And it makes perfectly sense to broaden the audience to connect that value that a company creates. It's not just the let's say the sweet spot of the target audience, but a broader basis of society. It makes perfectly sense. And thank you so much for your great examples. And I guess this is a message that all the companies have to keep in mind, that a part of their success not just depends on this smaller target group, but on a broader part of the society. Thank you again.
You know, you're very right, and I appreciate your comments. There is a saying that good goes around. So ultimately, whatever good you're doing will come back to you. It will come back to you, as indeed for NFL. This time in the COVID-19, NFL has done much better than the other sports leagues. Why? Because they have been so involved and giving to the community. And we as business people have to take a long-term view. You know, if your horizon is just this quarter or the next quarter, then maybe doing good will not pay off in that short time. But if your horizon is 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever good you do, you are adding value and it will pay off. It will come back to you.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Okay, you're very welcome, sir. Thank you for your comments.
Another comment, questions? You can write it in the chat if you want. Okay, in the meantime, I'm going to share my screen because I want to thank Dr. Malhotra with this, it's a certificate. I give you the thank you for this super conference. We are going to give you in digital as well as this conference was. So thank you very much, Dr. Malhotra. I'm going to read it to all of the people present here. IESDE School of Management is honored to present this certificate to Naresh K. Malhotra for his outstanding conference, Broadening the Scope of Marketing by Doing Good. Your dedicated efforts are greatly appreciated. We value what you have done and what you will do in the years to come. Puebla, Puebla, November 22. Thank you very much, Dr. Malhotra, for everything.
IESDE, School of Management. Transformamos directivos, impactamos empresas.